It was actually designed with this red button to take recording, so as you're driving along, you could take dictation.
Hi guys, Scott here from Outlaw Garage. We are heading off to Zuffenhaus very quickly today, off to see a Porsche 930 with potentially one of the best interiors we've ever seen. So right, as we said, we're here at Zuffenhaus today. This is where we get our 930 and our 911 SC. Will be serviced as well very shortly, but we're here with Nick. We've got another 930 on the channel. So 76 build, 77 car, 51st 77 that Porsche did. That's its serial number 51. Built in early June of 76. They did have a few different changes as they went through, and I guess I'll point them out to you as you ask. But this is the car. So we bought it a few years back. It probably had 100 horsepower when we got it. Had a few issues. It needed an exhaust. I put a call out on Gumtree, found some bloke, had a chat with him. He asked me who's going to do the work for me. I said, look, I wasn't sure yet. And he said, oh, have you heard of Kane Hearn? I said no. And a few years down the track, this is where we're at, with a pocket and a bank account that's a lot emptier.
Because we saw this down at Porsche by the Bay.
That's right,
the first time we saw it.
That was actually our first outing post-restoration.
Because we'll cover the interior in a moment, but I was like, it's been modified over a period of time, but that's not the case. This is how it came out the factory.
We did a lot of research. When we had the car up on hoist, we verified its serial numbers were correct. We were at Porsche Melbourne, Australia, actually, when we picked up the car. We got some paperwork from them as to what it came out with, and that's where we established it was a blue car interior, blue Martini interior with the Mackenzie beige inserts and yellow carpets. Of course, as everyone in the 90s, everything had to be bad boys, so it was actually running around at one stage with a 964 engine, so our engine, which is now in the car, was put aside on a crate. It had a high boost, 500 horsepower plus car, and was a bit of a hot rod running around with that, and it'd been off the road for 20 years when we bought it.
It's nice that the previous owner kept the original engine as well, because often they can kind of just go missing.
Unfortunately, we don't have the original wheels. We've managed to source some period correct Fuchs since then, but it's currently running on some Group 4 Campagnolo replicas.
I do like those though.
Yeah, they look cool. But yeah, so we managed to put the car back together. It's been a lot of love and a lot of money spent, but we wanted to do everything right on it. So lots of research to get it to where it is today. So even with the interior, with the option of putting carpet kits, I know Carbone do a lovely kit that a few of the guys restoring them over in the US have started doing, but we talked to Kane, we wanted this to be dead right, dead original, and the car was dead original, even comes with a bit of grit. There was some little
and a plate up here.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, so that's the mod plate from memory.
Yeah.
All original numbers in here. So one thing we didn't do, even though it was a bare metal windows out restoration, we talked to a few restorers about the car on what we should do, whether we should go to town, rip the fuel tanks out, because they were all out at the time.
Yeah.
And they said the car was so original in here that not to bother. So we've left the engine bay and the frunk unrestored with respect to how it was. Depending on whether you had aircon or not, there were 3 different revisions. Non-aircon cars, obviously the air conditioner condenser lives under this. Non-aircon cars don't have that, so you'll see that blanked out. This is actually grafted onto a steel tray. So this is actually factory, it was originally fiberglass. Lots of the tinware has gone missing on a lot of the cars. We were fortunate enough that everything was originally there. So there's very little missing on this car. We had to source some bits and pieces that the car was optioned with, and it's since changed. You can imagine we had different speakers, different radios. But yeah, most of it's all there. We're yet to get the air conditioning going. But
it can be a little temperamental.
Yeah.
Plus, it can be a little bit like someone with asthma blowing on you.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, I've talked to a few guys in the US who have restored them and got them going right, and a lot of these actually had a factory recall on the main lines, and our car had the original lines on it. So we've gone through and upgraded all the lines, but like I said to you, that's the last thing we've got going. I've actually got the original air conditioning unit on it. It's the correct date stamp on it, and instead of replacing it, I'm actually going to rebuild it myself. So I've got a rebuild kit for it, managed to find myself another clutch on it. So the intention was to get everything right on this car, whether it was an engine sticker or the aircon unit. We wanted everything perfect on the car. Even this, we're a bit worried when we first saw this. It looked like a weld on a pressure sensor switch or a boost sense switch. We managed to get a restorer's guide, and sure enough, there's reference to lots of different cars, ones that have casting lugs on it, others that don't, and we managed to find a picture of a car that was exactly that. So we know that ours is actually factory. That's not something that's been cracked and retrofitted.
Yep.
It's exactly like that. I've got pictures in that restorer's book as well.
I think we need to look at that restorer's book as well before we go, because that is great. I guess there were some benefits that the actual motor was out.
The motor was out, but it had been sitting idle. We had rust in the throttle body. We had an alternator that wasn't working. We had fuel pumps that weren't working. So look, it needed the magician himself that was Kane to figure out what it did need. And very quickly we went from the 100 horsepower back to the 238 or whatever it had. And Kane was like, "No, it's still not right. Let's get your distributor rebuilt," and a bit of a recurve and a rebuild on the distributor, and it came back to sort of factory horsepower.
But at least it's out. You've not got to pull it out. You can
Correct.
get rid of the 964 motor, and then at least get this one running as it should be. They always look so much different to obviously ours with the 3.3. Just a different motor, isn't it?
Yeah, we did rebuild the gearbox on this as well. So we rebuilt the gearbox. It did have an LSD on it, so that's something that wasn't that was an option from the factory, but not listed against our car. So that's the one difference that we were able to identify. But rebuilt gearbox, freshened up engine. Good on the compressions, good on the leak down, good enough to not warrant a rebuild anyway. So put back together, remag plated the fan shroud, the fan and fan shroud there, and off we went. Anything that we found a problem with, we either sourced a period correct part, or we went straight to Porsche and got factory parts for it.
Paint-wise, looks absolutely immaculate.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that is not how it was when you picked it up.
No, it was the same colour. The car had previously, with the paperwork that we received, so we got good documentation up until the late 90s. When we got it, from far it looked great. I actually paid my half sight unseen. Brent had heard about the car and had done a little bit of looking at it, so I didn't know what we were getting. So my money got handed over before I saw it, and when it came, 10 feet away, it was great. This car looks good. Then up close, I'm like, oh no. So there was a lot of paint on it, and it looked it. All the anodized aluminium details had gone. They'd gone almost to silver. The paint was really thick. Once we'd met Kane, we brought it down here. Kane's words to me were, "Nick, it's a really good car. It's worth investing some money in it." Very straight. There was no signs of damage to the vehicle. It even had the original overspray when they sprayed the inner guards. It all had the original factory overspray. We couldn't see that it was crunched anywhere. And during the gearbox restoration, Brent said to me, "Look, mate, engine's out, gearbox is out. Why don't we just tow it and get it painted?" So we decided to do that. We used a company called BM Finishes for that down in Heidelberg. He was extremely reasonably priced. We had him come and look at the car, showed it to him on a hoist, showed him that there was no boggle filling, gave us a reasonable quote for paint, and said, "Once I strip it, we'll let you know if there's variations." And the only variation I had was a little rust mark on top of the roof under the paint, which was an easy repair, and the car got painted. One of the things that isn't standard on the car, it was an option, was the turbo decool. We just liked it. So,
I think it's really. I really like it.
Yeah, it was an option on the car, on the 3 litre and the 3.3 turbos. We'd seen it on a few cars in a few books, and we thought, you know what, we can always peel it off later. We talked to B&M about whether or not we'd be damaging any paint afterwards if we decided to remove it. He gave us the thumbs up, so we decided to put it on.
I think the decal is part of what makes the car as well, especially the one on the rear is particularly nice, but how that is across the door going across the front fender,
So in that restorer's book, and I'll show you that later, I even found the original Porsche documentation on how to position this. Even with respect to the distance that the wheel spat had to be off the rear wheel arch, that was all covered in the original documentation. So I made sure that that was all right. Some of the other work we did is obviously seal kits, but you can notice the black is really black.
Yeah, I did notice that.
It's not powder coated, so we did polish back and re-anodize all the aluminium trim work. And the thing that I'm most proud of was the handles. So the handles are actually zinc die cast. They're not anodized. You can't anodize zinc die cast. So I managed to find the only person in Australia that does black chrome. They're in WA. No one else does it anymore because of the nasties that come off it. So the handles have all been re-black chromed.
Let's have a look at those.
And that's it. So we do have the original Fuchs. We went when they were restored. We actually did them in the RSR colour, so the silver spoke as opposed to all black on the centre hub.
Yeah.
And we found a Japanese car that looks like that, so that's what we've done. So in some of the future, if someone sees the car, you might see it running around with the Fuchs.
Yeah, but I do like those.
Yeah, so we were one of the first to order the Group 4 Fuchs wheels. We were probably the second or third people in Australia to get them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, they look cool. But underneath it all, there's been a full suspension and brake restoration. Everything original again. We didn't upgrade brakes. We just kept it all. And
suspensions like stock.
All stock suspensions. So yeah, we've got the Bilsteins front and back.
Yep.
But everything is stock.
That's
stock
the word
brakes
I was
as well,
for.
and gee, you feel the stock brakes. So I do have some race pads on it to make me stop a little bit quicker, and it's come in handy a few times. One thing I haven't done yet is the mirrors, and you can see a lot of the plastics got that normal fade as the oils dry out of the plastics. They do fade, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. Some people talk about applying heat, softens up the plastic and lets the oils get to the surface. So I've actually got some old ones that I'm testing in the background to see how they're going to last if I do that little tweak to them. So when we picked up the car, it was all black, and when Porsche Centre Melbourne looked the car up and told us what it was specified with, they said it was Martini Blue with Mackenzie beige on yellow carpets.
So you had no idea what the interior was before you got the car?
Well, we could see when Brent went to look at the car, on the edge of the door trim, which had been resplayed black, we could see a little bit of blue on it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
When
it's a blue.
It's Martini Blue, so it's the same blue that was used on the 76 Martini car. So obviously extremely difficult to get. I contacted the World looking for the right blue colour. Obviously I had the inside of the door car, so I knew what colour it was meant to be. And after researching everyone and talking to a few restorers in the UK, the one restorer that recently did a Martini car said, don't even bother looking, I've got 1,300 samples, you'll never get it, you need to get it custom tanned. So we went down that path of getting it custom tanned, and that then opened up other cans of worms. Because
and was that here in Melbourne it got custom tanned? Or?
Absolutely. So there's one tannery down at Laverton, and the guys are Porsche nut as well, and we reached out to a few trimmers, got some good advice, and we ended up at the tannery. We talked to them about how we wanted the top dashboard one piece. So you'll see a lot of modern Porsches now that have been reupholstered. They've got the French stitching over the top here, and that's because in the sun this leather was originally one piece wrapping around.
Yep.
The current solution now is to make it two piece with stitching, and the reason why that is in the summer with the heat the leather shrinks and they all cracked. This car's a bit special. It's not going to be a daily drive for us. It's not going to be sitting in the sun much. So we wanted that done right, which meant that we needed to get the leather thin enough to be able to wrap one piece around all these complex curvatures. Same goes for the garnish rail. So you notice there's no stitching on those garnish rails.
Yeah.
And that's all from getting leather skied down to the right thickness. And some of the advice we got from some of our best restorers was it couldn't be done. We found people that could do it. We just had to get the right leather for them, which we managed to do. We even went to the effort of pressing the right nap in the leather, and by nap I mean the imprint on the hide. So after the stuff was tanned and skied back to the right thickness, we had metal presses pressed into the leather in order to get the right pattern to match what it was. So some of the other nuances we've got is this up here.
It's like a
if you actually look at it, you can actually draw a hexagon with a pattern, and that's how you can tell the early cars. All early cars, including these turbos, didn't have what they call like a square pattern. If you look at it, you can actually draw a hexagonal around it. And again, I searched the world for it, couldn't find it, found it, but the pitching on the perforations wasn't quite right. So I wanted to get this stuff right. I managed to find it in the UK. It was the person that had done that previously Martini restoration, and he even discussed themselves trying to source it. They batch make the material. The material had to be a particular thickness, and the commercially available stuff was thicker again. So yeah, this roof kit took me a while to find, but again, we wanted it restored to Pebble Beach level. We wanted everything dead right in the car.
Yeah, just look at that.
If you look at the rear speakers, you'll notice they're a square pattern, and some people have corrected me on that, saying, hey,
Let's have a bit of a look, see if we can get those.
yeah, hey, the 77s didn't come with a square pattern, and the reality is they're sort of half right. So they actually changed the pattern in August of 76, and our car was built in June. So 3 weeks earlier, you got a square pattern. If your car was built a month after, it had a hexagonal pattern for the new larger speaker that they put into the car.
And we do need to cover that on the book a little bit later.
Yeah.
That book's a bit special.
Yeah.
Just on the carpet there, like that yellow, and then
the blue trim.
blue, and then all along there.
Yeah. One thing I'll point out, this is a notoriously a radio that was notoriously always problematic. So it's called the what do they call it? It's called the Bamberg radio. And it was actually designed with this red button to take recordings. So as you were driving along, you could take dictation and make a recording for your secretary to go and type up for you when you'd finish your meeting. So
Look at that.
Yeah, so there's a
I have never seen that.
Yeah, oh, it's got a spring behind it, and 40 years old, it doesn't really retract as well as it used to, but that was an option in the day. And
surely now you've got to get one of those like big suitcase mobile phones to also have in the car.
Yeah. It's just, you don't see that sort of stuff, but even your little cassette storage.
Yeah.
So I had a couple
that
of
mic is awesome.
Yeah. So you see it on a few cars, and it's actually screwed into the side, but on the 930s it was actually part of your center console. The center console was missing. I spent a year looking for one and found one in the US, brought it back and got it reupholstered.
All right, so I think we're going to go for a spin.
Let's do it.
Get a bit of a hint of blue, which could, to be fair, could have been any blue at all. And then to go, I've got a car and it's this interior.
Yeah, well, that was it. Once
like it's a lottery ticket, I think.
Yeah, once we found out from Porsche, actually we got the specs of it. The previous owner was considering rebuilding it himself, and decided he was going to sell it and not worth the resto. Yeah. And we paid accordingly for it. We knew what the car was. It was a 3-litre. It needed a good lot of money spent for it, so we didn't pay restored prices. We paid unrestored prices, but that gave us the room to move. But still, it was a bit more expensive than we were anticipating in terms of what we spent between the gearbox and the interior. The interior was probably the most expensive part, getting everything. Yeah, but once you know you got this interior, it's what makes the car. You got to do it right. It makes the car. Everyone who comes and looks at the car talks about it and what they see. Even from the sourcing the tartan, I'm not sure, we maybe should have pointed out, but I was even particular about the stitching and where the lines were relative to the tartan pattern. Like, that's how hard I went to get this thing right. Did you find it here in Melbourne? The car, it was a Melbourne car. Yeah. So there's a few boys up in Williamstown that have a bit of a car collection that they were cleaning up on trying to reduce what they had. And Brent's known them since he was a teenager, and he'd always said to them, if you ever know of any cars. Brent was actually looking for a GT3 RS at the time, and was considering buying an MFI, and then this one came up, and he had the Lamborghini, and he said, I didn't want another high ticket car. And I said, look mate, I'm up for another project, so if you want to go halves in it, we'll go halves. So Brent's my neighbour, and we've restored this one to where it is today. Yeah, great project between neighbours. Yeah, no, he's referred to as my other husband. The wife's upstairs, and Brent and I are on the street street, talking cars, talking watches, talking holidays, talking the world, politics. It's fun. It's good having good neighbours.
Yeah.
For the same turbo as a 3.3, the smaller displacement motor, it feels like a bigger kick.
And like you were saying, it seems to pick up that little bit quicker.
Yeah. I think when you look at the numbers, the 3-litre turbo is quicker to 80 than the 3.3. I think a 3.3 is quicker to 100, but yeah, to 80 because it's that smaller displacement.
Yeah.
That turbo spools up and throws a bit more air into the smaller displacement motor. Ryan Snodgrass is the author of the book, and he does a few of these beautiful limited edition collector's items. So this is book 1691 of 2500.
Yeah, that. If I'd known about these, I probably would have got one myself.
Yeah,
signature on it as
that's
well.
Right. He was actually
nice hologram as well.
Yeah, he's actually he's done a couple. So he's done two others here. These are Canes. So the one that he's best known for is the one on the 2.7. And he goes to town in the descriptions of these books. So he talks. He's got original factory photos here, press releases. He's got detailed drawings and development sketches, and he talks about the evolution of forced induction with this 3-litre turbo being the first production car, other than the Corvair, I think, that had a turbo on it. It talks about the development and the evolution of the 3-litre turbo into what it was, and you get old brochures here of how they were advertising it back in the day, and there's actually a few special cars discussed in this book, including Alan Hamilton's own first right-hand drive 3-litre turbo that came out. It recently sold for just over $500,000 unrestored at the auctions. The thing that people don't realise about these 3-litre turbos is they're actually rarer than the RSs in right-hand drive. So there were 118, I think, 2.7 RSs made. There were in right-hand drive, there were 91 3-litre turbo right-hand drives made. And I still remember turning 5 and Mum coming home, and she gave me a 77 3-litre turbo poster, and it's still at Mum's place. So to sit here and have one, many years later, I'm pretty lucky. It was either that or a 959 or an F40, but they're the three posters I had as a kid. And to me, when I think of iconic Porsche, and I talk to my people that aren't car people about Porsches, and I say to them, the car with a big Whaletail. Everyone recognises a Whaletail. Yeah. So, everyone talks about the 2.7 being iconic, but for me, that 3-litre turbo is the one. And here's one here. So here's one here, same sort of spec as what we've done. Had the turbo sticker on it. You can differentiate the 3-litre from the 3.3 with a flat T-tray spoiler. Yep. You see the 3.3s dig up. This book tells you everything. We talked about that dodgy weld on that engine. You can see one's a little bit different here, but as you go through the pictures, you'll see that there's different versions of it. In here, they actually list every single serial number that was built, and it lists what orders it was, or what options it was ordered from factory from Porsche Direct. Our car was in conflict with what Porsche Australia told us, and we reached out to the author, and he explained that it's something that could have been struck up between the dealership and Porsche that wasn't in their original documentation. But this is what we use. It talks about, you've got blueprints for turbos in here, you've got details of engines in here. It shows you the various color variations you can get from 75 through to the 76, and then again in 77 they introduced different color options. They introduced different color options for the interior in those same years. So you'll see Canes, which is a 76, is in this copper brown color. Yeah. What else have we got in here? Oh, we talked about that turbo sticker and the manual on how to install it and where to put your sticker.
Oh yeah.
So this is to the level that we've gone to get that right. And I think I talked about even the wheel spat, having the wheel spat sticker, the right dimension off the wheel arch. Yeah. Even that's in the Porsche documentation. So we wanted to get this thing right, and this book was the Bible for us. It talks about all your color samples. There's our yellow carpet that we've got. There's our Mackenzie beige tartan that we've got, and there's our Martini blue. So the guy would have gone to the sales counter and said, yeah, I want that, and that. And that's where we're at.
Gutsy move back in the day, but now you're so grateful for that he built that car.
Yeah, well, back in the 70s, he would have had that, and he would have been the coolest guy on the road. And then come late 80s, when everything was black or red, no one wanted blue with yellow and
yeah,
and
that
tartan,
would
so
that would have actually devalued the car.
that's right. That's
where
right.
nowadays that's an absolute plus to the car.
And there you go. You can see the Martini Blue here. So this is a Martini car. You can tell it by its unique seats. This one was actually featured in the motor show in London. Same era as ours. That's the leather on our car. And you can see he's got the same groovy cassette holder and the same radio, ready for dictation.
So we'll do the outro while we're sat in the car. So thanks very much, Nick, and thanks to Kane. If you're watching, Kane, because brilliant work and
Great result.
Mechanics, honest, reliable. So if you need any work done, then come down to Zuffenhaus because Kane is brilliant. Thanks for watching the video. Please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.